Okay, that's welcome back to 1d8 plus 1 Elite Orbs or Dimming Stage Block 9, or welcome back to Dimming Stage Block 9 and 1d8 plus 1 Elite Orbs. That is some confusion type thing on mechanics. They're infinitely confusing type thing in that type of sense. That's your score type thing in that type of sense, and that's an 18. And then on that line is a 19, and from that 19 is a +4 type thing in that type of sense, which is not on the same line. See right there, you follow along the line type thing there, and that's not useful to anything in that type of sense. Now from that, you get score thing settled together. Okay, now you can do this in two places type thing. You could either go to the back of the book type thing in that type of sense. That's the index, and that's page 317. And in that type of thing, that is character type thing, and that means. And from that, you can do that type thing in that type of sense. Now in the character sheet, that's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1 type thing in that type of sense. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 abilities type thing in that type of means. And from there type thing in that type of sense, we have an 18 score type thing from that line, and that's there. You go back here type thing, and you write 19 beside it type thing in that type of sense. And you don't. Let's see here. Now that's still at first level with 0 experience type thing, and it isn't. And from there in that type of sense, that's 18 to 19, and then the +4 goes with the modifier, and that's modifier type thing, and that's +4 right there. So 18 and 4 type thing in that type of sense. Then at 4th level type thing in that type of sense, that's 4, 6,000, 7, 3.5, and that's first ability point increase behind the first and second feat. Now in that type of thing, you go over here type thing, and if let's say you're a human in the Pathfinder system, or I don't think anybody does here type thing, it says that you can put any one of these abilities with a +2. So in that type of thing, that's a +2 type thing in that type of sense. That's an ability, which it isn't. So now in that type of thing, that's 8 strength. That's your page 8. That's strength type thing in that type of sense, and it says the abilities type thing in that type of thing. So the abilities type thing in that type of sense, and then that's strength, and then from strength to dexterity type thing in that type of sense, from strength to dexterity to constitution type thing, from constitution to intelligence on page 9, and to wisdom type thing there type thing in that type of sense, and then to charisma. Now in that type of thing, that's a character sheet type thing here in that, and there isn't. So that's strength to strength, dexterity to dexterity, constitution to constitution, intelligence to intelligence, wisdom to wisdom, and charisma to charisma. So it doesn't work. So now in that type of thing, you put a +2 in all your abilities type thing in that type of sense. And that's right type thing in that type of sense. That's +2 strength. From +2 strength, that's 18 score that you started with type thing. That was the start. That's 18. That's the adjustment type thing in that type of sense. That's 2. And that's 20. And that's how you do that type thing. And then 20 with a +5 modifier. And that's how that works. Alright, that's welcome back to Scorching Ray type thing. Scorching Ray is evocation fire, sorcerer, wizard 2. You blast your enemies with fiery rays. You may fire 1 ray, plus 1 additional ray for every 4 levels beyond 3rd, to a maximum of 3 rays at 11. Which is hard to understand type thing in that type of sense. That's maxed at 3 rays type thing there, type thing in that type of sense. So now that's 3rd level type thing. That's 3rd caster, or 3rd wizard, in that type of thing. And that's 7th wizard type thing in that type of sense. And that's 11th wizard. I find it's usually easier to make a chart type thing in that type of sense. But a lot of times, people in that type of sense can make things complicated type thing in that type of sense. Not a capital offense, but it's close to one. Now in that type of thing, that's wizard on page 55 type thing in that type of sense. That's 1st level type thing. That's 2nd, that's 3rd down the spine there. So that's 3rd, and then that's 7th, and also 11th type thing in that type of sense. Then that's on page 55. you turn to page 22 type thing in that type of sense. Now on 22, that's the first table. That's the second table. That's first, second, and third levels, 3,000 experience type thing in that type of sense. And at 7th level, that's 21,000 in that type of sense. So it's 21,000 experience there. And then in that type of thing, that's 11th level. That's 55,000 experience type thing in that type of sense. Now, that's your first ray. That's another 1 ray. And that's another 1 ray for a total of 3 rays at 11th level. Pretty straightforward. But you have to put that in the right mnemonic device type thing, or means, or it'll be like 9 rays or 50 rays or something like that, or only 1 ray. And 1d6 damage type thing in that type of sense. And I've really never seen a lot of people do it correctly type thing in that type of sense. But at least in that type of thing, maybe I just don't roleplay enough, or in that type of sense, everybody else type thing in that type of sense, at least doesn't raise it to a capital offense for doing so. So from that type thing, you blast your people with that for every 4 levels beyond 3rd to a maximum 3 rays in 11th. Each ray requires a ranged touch attack to hit. So that's a ranged touch attack type thing. That's ranged touch attack type thing in that type of sense. And I usually like to break this up. That's 4 type thing. That's 1 word or 1 phrase. But like a baseball inning thing or a football quarter, that's range type thing. That's 1, 2, and 3 type thing in that type of sense. And we'll get back to that in a second. And that's range touch attack and deals 4d6 points of fire damage type thing in that type of sense. That's 4d6 of fire damage type thing in that type of thing. And that's right. So now in that, you turn back here, is Player's Handbook. That's 3.5. And in that, you get another book. And we've got things to review of complication. Now, that's a Scorching Ray type thing in that type of sense, and that's fourth edition Player's Handbook. Now, in that type of thing, you turn in there type thing in that type of sense, which is extremely difficult to do and roll, because rolling's part of being a man type thing in that type of sense, or a woman or something like that, and that means. So in that type of thing, you turn to page 8 type thing in that type of sense. That's a D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and D20 type thing in that type of sense. Now, this game uses a polyhedral dice with different numbers of sides, as shown below. You can find dice like these in the store where you bought this book, in any game store and many bookstores. In these rules, the different dice are referred to by the letter D, followed by the number of sides: D4, D6, the common 6-sided die many games use, D8, D10, D12, and D20. When you need to roll dice, the rules tell you how many dice to roll, what size they are, so how many, that's how many type thing in that type of sense, and small type thing in that type of thing, and what size they are, type thing in that type of sense, and what modifiers to add, So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. And that now, for example, 3d8 plus 5, 3d8 plus 5, in that type of sense means you roll 3 8-sided dice and add 5 to the total. So now you've got to roll, let's see, 3 dice type thing in that type of sense, what size they are. They are 8-sided dice type thing. That's sided, 8-sided dice. There's a D in the side type thing. And those are going to be random. And what modifier to add type thing in that type of sense, and that was plus 5 type thing in that type of thing. And it's pretty complicated. And that's 1, 2, and 3 type thing in that type of sense. Then afterwards, add 5. Alright, I'm going to need to get a different piece of paper type thing for that. Okay, here. Got paper here. And it's here. and that's add 5 type thing. That's right. Now in that type of thing, that's a plus thing, that's a box, like a learning block. That's a box type thing in that type of sense. And from that type of thing, you can roll 1d8 type thing in that type of sense. Now in that type of thing, some people like to roll them singularly type thing in that type of sense. I can't roll type thing in that type of sense. That's why I take modifiers to almost pretend to roll type thing in that means. But that's what it said type thing to do. Now in that type of thing, you can use d10s to roll percentages if you ever need to. Roll d10 for 10s and d10 for the 1s to generate a number between 1 and 100. 2 10s is 100, but otherwise 10 and on the 10s die counts as 0 to 10 on the 10s die, and a 7 on the 1s die as a result of 7, not 107. So in that type of thing, let's go back to the 3d8 type thing, that type of sense, 3d8 plus 5. So now in that, you roll, and that's an 8. So in that type of thing, in that type of sense, you roll an 8. Now it's one roll type thing, and it said to roll, well, how many times 3 type thing. We made one roll type thing, so that is 3 rolls already type thing in that type of sense. Got 2 remaining type thing in that type of sense. So from that type thing in that type of sense, that's a 3. And in that type of thing in that type of sense, then that's a 5. And from that type thing in that type of sense, that's their type thing. Then you add those type thing. That was 3 rolls type thing in that type of sense. That's 1, 2, and 3. Now from that D8 type thing, this could come out bigger or smaller type thing. I really don't know. And in that type of thing, that's here. That's 3 dice. That's 1, 2, and 3. That's 1, 2, and 3 type thing. These are, that's 1, 2, and 3 dice type thing. And then that was a lower roll. And in that type of thing, in that type of sense, that is a 4 here type thing in that type of sense, a 3 here, and a 3 here type thing. And we rolled once type thing in that type of sense. That's the 4 counts for the first roll, the 3 counts for the second roll, and the 3 counts for the third roll type thing in that type of sense for 10. And then we put 10 in the first box, and that's A type thing. And it said add 5 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 15 type thing in that type of sense. Pretty complicated type thing in that means. Never seen it that complicated before, but then again, I don't know anything, and you would know something if you would accept a 1 and roll that type thing like real people are supposed to do. So from that type thing in that type of sense, you just go back to the scorching ray type thing in that means. Now, that's scorching ray type thing, and I gotta find the description type thing here. Okay, that was the first ray type thing in that type of sense, and that was 46 of fire. So right now at our caster, we do 46 type thing in that type of sense. So now we just, that's 4, that's the breakup of 4 type thing, and that means. And that's right. So that's 4d6 type thing. And that's A, B, and C type thing in that type of sense. Now in A part type thing, it says roll in that type of thing, and that's the number of times that you're going to roll. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now in that type of thing, it's a d6. This is an 8-sided die type thing in that type of sense, and we didn't match that up type thing in that means. So I need the other book, which I closed. And that's complicated type thing in that type of sense. It really is. Because those are capital offenses type thing. This is a d8 type thing in that type of sense, and that's 8, that's 8, 5, 2, that's 8, 5 type thing in that type of sense. That's a d8, and so underneath it, it says d8 type thing, and this is the wrong die because the spell said d6, not d8 type thing in that type of sense. So now in that, it says a d6 looks like a cube thing rather than a rhombohedral. So then you find a cube thing type thing in that type of sense, and boom, that's a match type thing in that type of sense, so that's a d6. We're going to roll this 4 times type thing, so that's 1 time, that's 2 times type thing, that's 3 times, that's 3 rolls there, and that's 4 rolls type thing there. So now it's not 4 rolls until the cup type thing in that type of sense, and then you roll that type thing in that type of sense. Now, under that type thing, that's your first roll, your second roll, your third roll, and your fourth roll. For your first roll, you had a 6 type thing in that type of sense, so you write 6. In your second roll type thing in that type of sense, you have a 1 type thing in that means, in that type of sense, and then for your third roll, you have a 3, that's 3 dice type thing in that type of sense, or to take that out type thing in that type of sense, that is 1, that's the first roll type thing in that type of sense, that's the second roll type thing in that means, and that's the third roll type thing in that means, and that won't be missed type thing. And then the fourth roll type thing in that type of sense, and that's serious of consequences of whatever religion choice or choices type thing on the internet type thing. That's how that rocks or crocs type thing in that type of sense. I don't think so type thing, but I often get in trouble for saying that in pretty much anywhere. So in that type of thing, just like religion, just like people or gender type thing, it's always the same. That doesn't crock type thing in that type of sense, and it could crock if it had a real man behind it type thing in that type of sense. And so, or from your non-volunteering the information that you can't do. So in that type of thing, that's first, second, third, and fourth. That's 6, 1, 3, and 6 type thing in that type of sense. But could done if we tell them you can roll a 1 and have a 1 total type thing in that type of sense, which is right. So now that's 6, 1, that's 6 plus 1 plus 3 plus 6 type thing in that type of sense. That's 13. Now I mistyped that type thing in that type of sense. That's 6 plus 1, and that's equal to 7, plus 3, and that's equal to 10, plus 6 type thing in that type of sense. That's 16. So now your scorching rate at 16. Now you could have sudden maximized type thing in that type of sense. But if in that type of sense that you have a spell type thing, say in your 20 intelligence type thing in that type of sense, then you might have 5 per day type thing in that type of thing. So it would be 16 type thing for one spell type thing in that type of sense. So basically about 80 at first type thing would practice with Precocious Apprentice type thing. And it's very, very difficult. And I'll probably look at that in the next part type thing and stitch it to here type thing after a break.